Hi, this is Jackie Miller, and you're listening to Out of Crazy Town. Today's guest is Dana Skaggs, also known as the Queen of Boundaries. She's a licensed senior psychological examiner with over 15 years in private practice, specializing in anxiety, trauma, and adjustment issues. In this episode, we unpack boundary dysfunction, especially in the context of divorcing a narcissist, why saying no can trigger panic, and how learning to set and defend healthy boundaries isn't selfish, it's essential. If you're exhausted and overwhelmed, this conversation will remind you that peace is possible. Let's dive in. Welcome, Dana Skaggs, to Out of Crazy Town, your guide to divorcing a narcissist. Thank you so much for joining me today.
This is fabulous. I can't wait to do our podcast.
Me too, because I have never done, in the over 50 episodes I have, believe it or not, an episode on boundaries, and it's insanely important. So I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah, this is wonderful. I can't wait.
So I already told listeners a little bit about you, but you've been in private practice for over 15 years, right?
Right.
And have your master's in clinical psychology. And now, though, you've come to be known as the Queen of Boundaries. How did you end up with that as your focus?
That is a fantastic question, Jackie. So what happened is that when patients would come to me and they would begin to tell me what is going on in their life, and I'm listening to everything that they're telling me, and my brain is naturally kind of automatically dividing what they're telling me into two different categories. Number one, what is in their yard, and I use a yard analogy when I teach boundaries, and what is not in their yard. So they only have agency and control over what is in their yard. What is in their neighbor's yard, their neighbor's thoughts, their neighbor's feelings, their neighbor's actions, they can't do anything about that. We have to learn to let that go. And so what people do is they frequently get that reversed. Instead of paying attention to what they do have agency over, they like abandon that. They abandon their own yard. Their own yard looks like they're losing at Jumanji, right? Meanwhile, they're over there all in their neighbor's yard. All in the neighbor's yard, raking the leaves, trimming the hedges, painting the shutters, all in the neighbor's yard. And so when they're telling me what's all going on with them, the reason why people started calling me the Queen of Boundaries is because I would naturally start to see how so many of their issues were boundary related. No matter what they walk in talking about, my brain just kind of naturally divides it between what they can actually do something about, which is that's what we're going to spend our time on, versus what we cannot, like someone else's expectations, someone else's feelings, like someone else holding a grudge, someone else getting mad. Because I'll hear somebody say, well, I don't want to tell them that I don't like this or that because they're going to get upset. In my mind, automatically hears that as a boundary issue. And we can go into that later about why that is. And so I started bringing it up so much that was a snowball. More and more people started calling me, oh, here's Dana. She's the Queen of Boundaries. She's the Queen of Boundaries. And I was teaching boundaries courses in other places, and it just kind of snowballed from that. It is just kind of, well, and I have a personal reason why I know a lot about boundaries too, which makes me very excellent at what I do. So I think maybe it put me head and shoulders above just your average person out there that's talking about boundaries when they haven't really been pulled through the mud pile
Sure.
and forced to learn how to use boundaries to survive, which I had to do. So I know it on so many different levels, and that's kind of how it just organically happened.
Would you mind telling us a little bit about your story and why became a personal expert with experience in boundaries?
Sure, sure. So my mother struggled with several fairly significant emotional issues. She had what bipolar. She was diagnosed with that, and I feel like, I mean, I would comb through the DSM. I mean, I know I'm like, I know you're in here, and so, and I feel like she had borderline personality disorder on top of bipolar. So that was a large struggle for her. And I feel for that. How it played out, however, is her need for attention, her need to be the center of things was peerless. I mean, whatever was going on, she would find a way to try to create a problem or do something to draw attention to herself so she could get what she wanted. And she would play the victim a lot. And so it got to be where it was just more and more and more. And on the one hand, especially as an adult, I can look back and I can understand, her, some things that she went through growing up, and I feel for that and I have compassion for that. And also because being a therapist myself, I know that once we become adults, and this is going to sound some kind of way, but I don't care. Once we become adults, I don't really give a shit what you're an adult now, right? So I'm sorry that this happened to you as a child, and we're going to process it as, lots of times with my patients, we process what they went through as a child because as an adult, they are continuing to play out these dynamics that started when they were kids.
Yeah.
Well, but when you're an adult, though, you are now responsible for those dynamics that you are doing.
Yeah.
Gone are the days of saying, oh, well, but my mama, but my daddy, my mama, I don't, okay, that's interesting. That's informative. But there's a difference between something being explanatory versus an excuse. I hear you saying giving an explanation, but I will not accept it as an excuse because you are a grown ass person now, right?
Yes.
So I had compassion for what she went through, but she's an adult. And so I also needed to set boundaries. And that's something I have to teach my patients too. You can have compassion for what somebody went through and also set boundaries because, for example, forgiveness is about something that happened in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This happened last year, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever. And I'm going to forgive that. But forgiveness is not about moving forward. Boundaries are about moving forward. Forgiveness is about something in the past. Boundaries are, okay, I forgive you for that, but I'm going to set these boundaries so that I'm not going to get sucked into that again.
Absolutely.
And so my experience with my mother was she would play the victim and put herself in the center of attention, put herself in front of my children, put herself in front of my family. She would go to the hospital. That was her favorite place to go, was the hospital. She called it holding court. Now, she would probably never remember saying that, but I 100% say that she did.
Wow.
And she wanted me to call. She had this list of people that she wanted me to call all these people every time she got into the hospital. So they would all call her. They would come visit. She held court in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And so she went to the hospital so much as a means of manipulating that one time I had an emergency room physician come out into the waiting room and say, Dana, you need to stop bringing your mother here because she's doing this to manipulate you.
Wow.
When you have, and I'll never forget that as long as I live. And I ran into that. It's kind of a funny story. I ran into that physician later on. And I happen to be also a woman of faith, whatever. So I'm walking through CVS and I saw that physician in the CVS and I'm thinking, oh gosh, I feel like I need to tell her what she did for me, but I feel kind of like embarrassed and that seems kind of weird. It's like approach somebody, hey, in CVS and. So I'm like, I said, Lord, I'll tell you something. I'm going to walk down this aisle over here. And if you want me to say something to her, if you want me to tell her that that was very meaningful to me, what she said, then you're going to cause her to cross my path again. Because I've gone to the other side of the store.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing. And so I'm like, if you put her in front of me again, then I will tell her.
I'll do
And
it.
of course, guess what happened?
Here she comes
Here
down
she
the
is.
aisle.
Here she comes right down the aisle. So I'm like, okay, God, I'll do it. And so I told her what happened. And I think for her, it was very helpful because I think they probably get beaten up. And I can imagine she went out on a limb.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking if she said that to somebody else, they might have reamed her out for making a
True.
comment like that. But to me, that was like water on a parched ground. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it was so refreshing to have that validation from someone who was outside the scenario because like we've chatted about before, you kind of feel a little crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you're in this relationship with someone who's a narcissist and you and your podcast, you feel like you're in crazy town.
Yes.
And so that's why these external responses, these external points of view they're just like gold that you just hold on to with a white knuckled grip. And so that my experience with my mother helped me to know what it's like to live in a scenario when you don't have boundaries. And I include this in some of my keynote presentation. And I told her one time, I said, and we were sitting in a restaurant. I would get her, and I would take her out to eat, and because I try to do right. Right. I try to say, okay, I want to be a good daughter. I want to do the
Yeah.
good things. I don't want to turn into some kind of awful person. And so I would take her out to eat. It is just like I remember sitting and having a conversation, and I said, you know what? I feel like if I were to tell you, you know what, Mom? I am going to leave my husband and my kids, and I'm going to move in with you. And I'm going to make you the center of my world. I'm going to make you the sun that I satellite around. That you would say, you would pick up your pencil and you would walk over to the calendar and go, okay, what day should I pencil that in?
Wow.
And she just sat there and stared at me. And we both knew that she couldn't say anything because I was right.
You had called it. Yep. Wow. She
And
didn't
she
have a
didn't like it when I
response.
said stuff like, no, she just stared at me.
Yeah. Yeah.
She didn't say
Because
anything.
you're calling them on their boundary violations. And this audience can identify with so many things that you're saying, because yes, the narcissist they're living with, the pathological person that they are married to, is playing the victim card at every turn and does not allow boundaries. And so what do you suggest when you are still in the relationship, for those that maybe haven't left yet and but are thinking about it, and they want to start practicing that, but it doesn't feel safe maybe to say, how do you
Mhm.
start boundaries with somebody who absolutely is not having it?
Okay, two things come to mind.
Okay.
One, you need to get support. You
Okay.
need to get some support from outside of the marriage, whether that is a therapist, whether that's a coach, whether that's super good friends that are very wise. And a super good friend is somebody that's going to tell you the truth even when you don't want to hear it, and especially when you don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Those are the good friends. The people that don't tell you the truth, they're not really friends. They might be something, but they're not friends. Number one, you've got to get support from outside that can give you a clear vision. Because another thing, when you're in the scenario, it's like going through an obstacle course, but you have goggles on that look like those house of mirrors at a fair, the warped mirrors, and everything looks strange and warped. I mean, you've got these goggles on and you're having to go through an obstacle course,
Yes.
and you can't do that. You will fall on your effing face,
Yeah.
okay? You need someone else to come alongside you that has clear vision, that can see the obstacle course exactly for what it is, that can take you by your hand and say, nope, not that way, come this way. No, there's a mud pile in front of you. No, there's a wall in front of you, and can help describe what's actually going on from an objective point of view. Because a therapist or a coach, they don't really have a dog in the race,
Right.
right? They're going to go home to their family. I mean, they have compassion, they care about you, but they're not emotionally invested in your relationship, and that's good.
Yes, that's a good thing.
You need someone who is objective, so they can sit there and hear your view of what's going on. They can watch you cry. They can sit there with you in your emotions and not be pulled down.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be something you can reach for no matter what. So you've got to have someone who's outside of the situation that you can go to on a regular basis and tell them what's going on, what you're experiencing. That is, if you don't have that,
Mm-hmm.
your goggles are going to prevent, you're going to try your best to get through that obstacle course, and it's not going to work.
It's never going to work. And well, that's what, even though it was for only a minute, that's what the doctor did for you. She had
Yes.
clear vision and you had the goggles on, and she was saying, I need to show you that this is what you're going on. You're going through this obstacle course and it's not working.
Yes. Yes. And you keep bringing her here, and it's just she's doing it to manipulate you, and I see that. And so she was not in crazy town like I was. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, when you're in crazy town, you can't, you don't know what you're doing. So
Down
you've
is
got to
up.
get someone who doesn't live in crazy town,
Yes.
right?
Different zip code. Bring him in.
Yeah. And that's number one. But number two, I would suggest baby steps, because usually when someone comes to see me, they have been in this relationship for a minute. Okay.
Yeah.
Enough to be experiencing pretty significant consequences, enough to push them past the pain threshold. I'm going to take just a second and explain the pain threshold.
Oh, please.
The pain threshold, and it applies to every one of us. So the pain threshold says this: before any of us will do the work of change, and make no mistake, change is work.
Mm-hmm.
It's scary. It's anxiety provoking because we don't know what's over there, okay? Before any of us will do the work of change, the pain of staying the same has to become greater than the pain of change. And until someone reaches that pain threshold, they will not seek help. They will not invest the time, the money, and the effort to go see a coach or a therapist. They won't do it. They're in pain, yes, but they're not in enough pain.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time somebody comes to me, they have reached that pain threshold
Mm.
and they have a lot. So that's why baby steps are important,
Yeah.
because by that point, so much is going on. And the narcissist has created this huge obstacle course, distorted funhouse that they've been in for years. And they don't know right from left. They can't tell. Their compass is not working.
No.
It's like they're lost in a forest and their compass does not work. They don't know which way to turn. They don't know what north, south, east. They don't know which way to go. They're walking in circles. They're running into snakes and trees and getting scratched by thorns. They
And
can't
they
find their way
rearrange
out.
the obstacle course every night when you go to bed. So when you wake
Oh,
up, it's even when you've learned that there's a box right here you're going to run into. When you wake up in the morning, the box is somewhere else.
yes, 100%. So you have to be able to find someone who's outside, who's not in crazy town, who has clear vision, and then you take it one baby step at a time so you can learn, you can slowly develop some confidence in yourself, because usually by the time you reach a therapist you have no confidence in yourself at all, because the narcissist has stripped that away,
Yeah.
where you feel like you question, you second guess every decision.
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
I had one woman in my office one time that she didn't know anything. Her husband was picking her clothes out. Her husband was telling her everywhere they, told her what she. I said, what is your favorite ice cream?
Mm-hmm.
And she sat there and stared at me. Her face was blank.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you don't even know your favorite ice cream, do you? And she just said, I don't suppose I do. I said, well, I have an assignment for you.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to go to Baskin Robbins or your favorite ice cream shop and sit down and get like a little sampler platter
Mm-hmm.
and try. I want you to come back next time and tell me, what is your favorite ice cream? Yours,
Yes.
not your husband's, yours. And so that's what we're talking about, baby steps of building that confidence and learning what their preferences are, because the narcissist strips those away.
And I don't know. Tell me if you think that this description is correct. That is a boundary issue because you're not even allowed to have your own opinions and your own likes and dislikes. They don't even want that boundary in place where you go to the ice cream shop and you're like, I want salted caramel. And they're like, no, salted caramel sucks. We don't eat salted caramel. We're getting strawberry.
We, we,
Yep,
uh-huh.
good brainwashing tactic on their part. And so you then they make it so painful for you to order salted caramel. They belittle you, they berate you, and that you just fine, I'll just have strawberry. And so it's if rather than going. And by the way, I understand the giving in. I did it for years and years and years just to make life easier because they made it so painful. And you forget that you ever liked it salted caramel, but they eroded that boundary that you just tried to put a stake in the ground that's like, no, I like salted caramel. And then you order salted caramel and you eat it. They don't allow that.
Right, because they're enmeshing with you. They
Ah,
don't want there to be a boundary between you and them.
good word.
They enmesh where you can't figure out where you stop and they start.
Ah,
And if you have some listeners right now that are in the very beginning, they're dating, right? They're not committed.
yeah.
They're dating and they're noticing this trend. I'm going to suggest, and is it okay? Can I use cuss words
Yes,
on your
please
podcast?
go
Okay,
for it.
okay, because I do that. So I'm going to make a recommendation. If your listener is dating and they go to get ice cream and they're like, I'd really like salted caramel, and their date goes, no, we don't like that. That's probably has more calories. Wouldn't you
Mm-hmm.
rather have vanilla? You know, my suggestion is number one, notice that.
Yes.
Notice what's going on. Open your eyes. Notice. You don't have to judge, but notice, right? Observe. And number two, say, if you're in a mood, blame it on PMS, but you can say, you know what? I'm ordering fucking salted caramel. It's not going in your mouth, it's going in my mouth. If you don't want fucking salted caramel, don't order it.
Yeah.
You order the fucking vanilla, I'm ordering salted caramel. So there. But
You know
see,
what I love about that is because if someone's, first of all, huge red flag, if they're going to do
yeah,
that, right? We don't eat
yeah,
salted caramel, has too many calories. We eat vanilla. I just described to you that often they will make it painful for you to hold your boundary in place. You kind of need to make it painful for them to erode one. So I
yeah,
love that approach. It's not going in your fucking mouth.
that's right. You're not fucking eating it. I'm not ordering for you. You want vanilla, you order vanilla. I'm ordering fucking salted caramel.
Yeah, I love it.
And but the thing of it is, if someone truly is a narcissist, if you do that, they will not be interested in dating you anymore because they want someone who they can manipulate and cajole and push around and mesh with. They're not going to want to be in a relationship with someone that has healthy boundaries. So if you happen to be in a new relationship and it's in the beginning stages and you're noticing this kind of stuff, if you set those boundaries down, then they will run for the hills and they'll blame you, of course. They'll call you names
Yeah.
and it's your fault. You'll be
And
the
you're
bad
crazy. You got so
person.
crazy just
Wah,
about
wah,
ice
wah.
cream. What's the big deal? Like, oh,
Right.
psycho. Yeah.
Yeah. They'll do all that. Let them. Who gives a fuck?
Let
Right.
them.
Let
It's
them.
great information. You just tested the waters. And instead of laughing and them saying, of course you're getting salted caramel, you can get whatever you want. That's information. So either somebody honored your boundaries, they had a little fun with it, you guys had a good time, you laughed, or they bailed. Yay. Good job.
Well, imagine for a moment. We're talking about yards, okay?
Yeah.
So imagine you have a yard and then you have a fence line, you have a neighbor, okay? Your partner, right? Whether it's a boyfriend, whether it's a husband, whatever, is the neighbor. So but imagine though, if you had a neighbor and they shoved the fence down and they came over and they started jerking up all your flowers, telling you your flowers are ugly. They don't like your flowers. They're going to plant new flowers in your fucking yard. Now, if you imagine that from a yard standpoint, you would be like, well, that's crazy. My neighbor was not going to come over here. It's not his yard, it's my yard. He's not going to come over here and jerk my flowers up out of my yard. But that's what a narcissistic relationship does. They want to mow down the fence, and your yard is now their yard. You don't have any say. They're going to come over and tell you, I don't like this tree. I'm cutting it down. I mean, imagine if your neighbor came into your yard with a chainsaw and cut your tree down. That'd be crazy town, right?
It's the same thing.
But that's what a narcissist does. Because if we think of our yard are our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions, our opinions, that's in our yard, which we have a right to,
Hmm.
right? And we have a responsibility to honor those things. If you're in a relationship with a narcissist, you've lost all sense of that because your neighbor over there, your narcissist neighbor, has made your yard his yard.
Yeah.
So you're just sitting on the front porch and you have no say over what your neighbor, your husband, your partner's coming over here planting the flowers, changing up the mulch, throwing your bird bath into the waste bin
And they've
because he
convinced
doesn't
you that the
like it.
property line is actually over here. They've been
Yeah.
talking about it nonstop every day, right? Like how that's not even the property line. You got that wrong. Even though it's on file with the records, with the county. No, they're right. The property line isn't even here. It's over here. I mean, like the shit they'll do to convince you that they have every right to your yard.
Yes, and before you know it, you don't even have a yard.
Yeah.
That's the woman that had no. She didn't even know what she wanted. What was her favorite ice cream? She had no yard anymore,
No, no.
and
And I'll tell
that's where
you,
your agency is.
when I was starting to learn, because early on in my relationship, I look back at the boundary pushing. So, very first one I can think of just met me, asked where I'm from. I said, grew up in Seattle. That's not possible. There's no such thing as pretty girls in Seattle. And you're pretty. And you're thinking, oh, wait a minute. I think he was a compliment, but really it was a put down about where I'm from. So I consider that kind of one of the boundaries. The second one was, my friend liked his friend. And we had left this party I met him at and went back to her house and we're sitting upstairs and there's people coming and going. And he walks in her house, walks up the stairs and goes, you're coming to my house. He lived across the street. And she liked his friend. So I went. I should have been like, middle finger, fuck you. You don't point at me and tell me where I'm going. Like I met you 15 minutes ago. Third boundary was asked me on a date for a Tuesday. Or no, calls me up, says, can we go out tonight? And it's like 4 p.m. And I'm like, I'm trying to be cool, but I'm like, no, you got to call me ahead of time. I need, notice. So I say no. Let's go out a different day. Says, okay, shows up. I must have told him where I lived, but shows up on my doorstep at midnight, knocks on the door. I told him no. I open the door and he walks in and shuts the door behind him. I mean, he is telling me right away, you're not allowed to have boundaries. And I didn't kick him out.
Yeah, I'm going to do what I want to do. Because a narcissist, what they do, the only thing that matters is what they want.
Yeah.
So, like, if you think about like a seesaw or a teeter-totter, like a healthy relationship, sometimes it's about one person's needs and sometimes it's about the other person's needs, and it goes back and forth, right? But if you're in a relationship with a narcissist, it gets stuck in one direction. It's always about them. It's always what they want. It's always about their opinion. It's always about their perception. It never comes back to you. It's always tilted toward them.
Yeah.
And you see that right from the beginning. He was telling you it's what he wanted that mattered. It didn't matter that you didn't want to go out. It didn't matter that it was midnight. It's what he wanted. So that's all. That was it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I love that you have to take baby steps. So like if you're dating, I'm eating my fucking salted caramel, you're not. If you're in the relationship, what do baby steps look like? Maybe is it just sticking to your guns? Maybe you don't have to drop F-bombs because they're going to throw a fit. I always say when we're going to put this boundary up, and I plan it with my clients, we're going to do it and then we're going to brace for impact. So like I said, is the baby step maybe in the ice cream scenario just a little more subtle when you're in the relationship and you're trying to practice boundaries now?
Yeah, I want to back up to a second. You said because we don't do something because he's going to throw a fit.
Okay.
If we go back to the yards for a moment.
Okay.
If our yard is our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions, and in our neighbor's yard are their thoughts, feelings, and action, in whose yard is that fit?
It's in your yard.
No, it's not.
It's not.
If he's throwing the fit.
Oh, I see what you're saying. See, this is a great conversation, Dana. Okay, go ahead.
If he's throwing the fit, it's his emotions, it's his behavior, it's in his yard. Now, I want you to realize something.
Brilliant.
If it's in your neighbor's yard, number one, you did not cause it. Number two, you cannot control it. And number three, it's not your job to cure it.
God, I love you.
That's your neighbor's yard. So if he's going to throw a fit, let him.
Yeah.
Who fucking cares? Now, will it be uncomfortable? Yes. Will your heart probably increase its rate in your chest? Well, you might get a little moist in the pits where you're getting a little anxious. Yes, all that is true.
Yeah.
And
do you see what just happened? I was coming at it from like a client's perspective because we always assume that it's our fault because they're going to make it our fault that they had to throw that fit. But thank you. That was just such a mind-blowing, blow up my brain moment because you guys need to realize, we all need to realize anyone's fit is not about you. It's not your problem. It's their behavior. Fit. It's his yard.
Just look at them. Just stare at them. If they're throwing a fit, oh my gosh, I can't believe. Now they're fit, they're going to be talking to you and they're going to be talking about you.
Yeah.
But it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
You know, I could scream at you right now, Jackie. I could call you names right now if I wanted to. It would have nothing. That would be all me.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts, my emotions, my actions, all me. That's in my yard. So that's why when I teach people about boundaries, about honoring the yards, what is in your yard, you have for example, your opinion about something, you have the right to speak it respectfully, right? We don't have a right to scream it at somebody. But we're like, oh gosh, I can't say that because if I do, then my neighbor is going to get mad or he's going to throw a fit. So there's a property line. I like to use the word and. Okay, well, with my clients, well, my gosh, if I do that, he's going to get really mad and he's going to throw a fit, probably. And well, he's going to be screaming, and other people, and he'll do it in public, and other people will stare at us, probably. And well, I'll be embarrassed. You might, and you just keep acknowledging the reality of the situation. Don't act like you're in some fantasy land. Acknowledge the reality, and his fit is his.
It's his. He looks like the crazy person.
Yeah.
He looks like the asshole in public, and it's again not. And that's the big difference because where they exert the power and control is the illusion that it's your fault. And they're so good at that manipulation. And so you're right. It is there. If you guys don't take anything else away from this podcast today, I think that is such a huge, huge takeaway. It's their problem. It's in their yard. I freaking love that,
Yeah, it's
Dana.
their behavior. So you have people, we say a lot, well, he made me mad, right? Well, technically, I want to point out that's impossible because our emotions are in our brain.
Mm,
So unless someone has access to your brain, or unless you have access to someone else's brain, like a neurosurgeon would, you
right.
cannot make anyone else feel anything. Their emotions are taking place inside their brain,
Mm,
which you do not have access to.
hmm.
So they can say, you made me mad. No, what happened if you slow that down frame by frame? You said a word, they perceived it in some kind of way, which is in their yard.
Hmm.
How they perceive what you say is in their yard.
Hmm.
And then they decided to respond with anger, which is also in their yard. The only thing of those three steps that was in your yard was you spoke words. And if you spoke words in a respectful way, then no harm, no foul.
Yeah,
Everything else belongs to them.
that's right. You can only control what you do
Yeah.
and everything
How they
else.
hear you, how they want to get mad, they want to hold a grudge, they want to blame you for this and that and the other. First of all, people sometimes come into my office and initially they want to try to shift blame onto everybody else, but that doesn't work because the more things that you have control over is the more you can like what you have responsibility for is what you can control.
Yeah.
So as long as you're blaming everybody else for everything, you have no control.
Yes. Yes. I want to say when I finally did start to enact boundaries, because way long ago, old Jackie had convinced myself that boundaries equal bitch. And I really prided myself on being this nice person. And so I couldn't reconcile in
Why?
my mind. I thought, I think because when I was looking for people, I wanted more control in my life. And I think somehow, even though I didn't have the education or the words to articulate it, I think I knew inherently somehow there was a boundary or just having my own opinions and holding them and is okay. But I kept looking for examples in the real world, and the ones that I had for some reason ascribed to being good boundary holders were like I had a sister-in-law that was a total bitch, and then one of my sisters is just she's kind of hardcore, and but I thought okay she's a good boundary holder but she's kind of a bitch and I love her and she knows she knows that. And I don't know why. And maybe it was so I didn't have to do the work. Maybe it was because I was afraid the pain wasn't great enough yet, like you said. So I hadn't crossed that threshold into that unknown where I was going to try to test boundaries or hold boundaries, I should say. But then when I figured out I could say no, and not only is it no big deal, but people freaking appreciate it. They know where they stand with me. They respect me. I slept like a freaking baby because when I didn't have boundaries, I went to bed with so much anxiety because I didn't know what was going to happen in the world when I woke up in the morning because I had zero control over it because I was letting everybody else's what they say, what they do, what they feel in my yard. And so it makes your world completely unpredictable when you don't have boundaries. When you have boundaries and you just let people know and they go, oh, okay, no problem. You sleep like a baby because when you wake up in the morning, your world's no longer predictable. You've told everyone where your fence is, and they go, I thought they were going to be so mad that I showed them where the fence was. And every single one, Dana went, oh, awesome, cool, okay. And I
Yeah,
was
the
like,
one
whoa.
that's how you can kind of separate the sheep from the wolves. Healthy people will hear your no.
Yeah.
People that are narcissistic, people that are dysfunctional will not respect your no. Now, I want to back up for a moment.
Okay.
Two things. One, you talked about trying to be nice. I challenge if there's listeners that are trying to be nice, why?
Yeah.
What's why? What is it about nice? I think people that know me would probably come up with quite a few different descriptors for me. Nice would not be one of them. I really don't see the nice benefits the other person.
Mm.
What does nice even mean? What does that mean? Nice people, nice people are always like they empty themselves out of everything that they wanted there. So nice is for the other person,
I
right?
love
So
that.
I just want to challenge what is this whole thing about being nice? I challenge, all right?
Yeah.
Another thing is that when we're setting boundaries, the most peaceful people that I know are the ones that have a very good understanding of their boundaries.
Yep. Agreed.
Now, sometimes because being a bitch and setting boundaries, they can overlap, but not necessarily,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I and one sometimes when you're first beginning to set boundaries, you're kind of bitchy because you're kind of no, you're testing out your no, right? And
Right.
so
Right.
you don't really know how to, so you're kind of like abrupt with it, whatever. But after you really get comfortable with it, you just simply absolutely know that you don't. For example, like if and it might seem a bit abrupt. I'll give you an example that I might do with someone, and
Okay.
I don't really care what they think. So if somebody wants to engage me in a conversation about something and I know that they're being manipulative and they're trying to suck me in and whatever, I might just kind of look at them and go, hmm, and just walk away. Just walk off. Just because they want to talk to me about something does not mean I have to talk to them.
Mm-mm.
I didn't want to talk about that, so I don't have to. I didn't say anything. I just went, and just turned around and walked away.
Love
And they're
that.
going to be standing there going, "Oh my gosh, she just like, yeah, I don't care."
Yeah.
Right? What I did was not hateful. I was not loud. I was not mean. I was not profane. I didn't call them names. I did nothing. And there's two sentences that I like to use with people when they're kind of coming at me and they won't stop. They think they don't know me and they think they're going to do something with all that mess, right?
Right. Right.
So I usually, when I've had enough, I tolerate it to a point, and then I usually say, number one, I'm sorry you feel that way. I hope you have a nice day, and I walk off.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry you feel that way. I hope you have a nice day, and I just turn around and walk off.
I love it.
Whether you're saying that face to face, whether you're typing it in text, whether you're saying it on a phone conversation, I'm sorry you feel that way. I hope you have a nice day. So you see, when you're really good at setting boundaries and you understand how they work, you're not owning the other person's feelings.
Mm-hmm.
If the other person, they can feel whatever they want to feel. I don't fucking care,
Yeah.
right? They have a right to be mad. They
Right.
have a right to be upset. They have a right to feel whatever they want to feel. Their feelings have nothing to do with me. So when you understand that property line and you understand you have a right to speak your words or not,
Mm-hmm.
you have a right to walk away if you want to walk away. How the other person feels about it is up to them.
And I love that phrase for all the listeners, even when they're dealing with their narcissistic person or ex, like
Mm.
or partner. That's great. I'm sorry you feel that way.
Hope you
Have
have
a
a
nice
nice day.
day. Turn
Yep.
around, walk
And
into your kitchen if you're under the same roof. To hang up the phone if you're, if it's over text, works too. That says that your feeling is in your yard.
Mhm.
Translation: Your feelings in your yard. This conversation's over.
Yeah,
I'm going
I'm
back to
not,
my
because you can't stop the other person from yelling and screeching,
right.
but you have control over what, if you're going to stand there and let them pour that into your ears
Right.
are on your body.
Yeah.
So you have a responsibility to yourself
Yeah.
to not hold your body there and let it be by this other person's feelings and thoughts. They
Yeah.
have a right to those, but you have a right to walk away.
Absolutely. You do not have to be subjected to that. I love it. And so I know, Dana, you have a program called the Boundary Blueprint, right? Could you tell us about that?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. There's three different programs. I think it's called the Essentials, Evolve, and Unity. Unity is for if couples want to do it together,
Okay.
but it's basically 14 video modules that I created, and each module is only like about 5 to 7 minutes, because I know we're busy. We're busy people. Ain't nobody got time to sit
Yes.
down and be watching some hour long, right?
We want the info
So
and then the
yeah,
next.
move it
Yeah.
on. But that's the way I think. I'm like,
Me
get
too.
to the chase, right? Get to the chase. So, and so there's 14 video modules, and with the video module, there are application questions. So if somebody wants to do, they can do a self-study that doesn't involve me. So
Okay.
those are lower price points because I try to be respectful of where people are coming financially.
Yeah.
So those are lower price points if they just kind of want to do it themselves. But Essentials, Evolve, and Unity, that involves me, which means you watch the video modules and you answer the application questions, and then it's on Thinkific, so I can see what the answers are, and then we will
Oh,
have a time where I sit with you and we'll go over those application questions, and as you're trying to apply them into your real life,
yeah.
and then you're going to come back to the next time that we sit down together. And so here's how I tried to apply, and this is what happened. And I don't know what to do. And I'll go, okay, let me tell you, that's a great example. Here's what I suggest you try the next time that happens. And so then you have access to me, and I'm helping you apply the boundary concepts. The 14 video modules teaches people, like, what are boundaries? How do
Mm-hmm.
they play out? It talks about the yards. It talks about when other people don't like him and having to defend them. And toward the end of I think it's a module 13 and 14, it talks about gaslighting,
Oh,
applying boundaries with narcissists, with being gaslit and all, because we have to, if they don't work in the hard places, then I have no use for it. Boundaries have to be able to go to the dark, ugly places. Otherwise, I have no use for them. Boundaries are fantastic. They can go to those dark, ugly places. They can go everywhere. You can use them everywhere. And because of my history, not only with my clinical background in clinical psychology, but also my personal experience with my
hmm.
mother, I've walked it. I've experienced it. I'm able to walk with someone and sit with them and hear them and take them through that so they can apply those and start seeing change. And when they set their boundaries and the other person pushes against them, which they will,
Mm-hmm.
then we talk about how do you defend? How do you defend the boundaries? Because that's happened to me. I'm not everything that I'm walking somebody through, I have experienced. I've been called hateful. I've been called ugly. I've been called unforgiving. I literally had a person bare her teeth at me one time. So I've been there. I know what this feels like. It's not
Yeah.
like I'm saying, oh, hypothetically. No, I have been in the muck,
Yeah.
and I know that these boundaries, and they are life saving. And I actually had to come up with 3 words to try to describe to people when they take this course. What will I get? In just 3 words. In relationships, you will get strength. You'll
Mm.
become strong. Number 2, you will have safety because you will create your own safety. Your safety does
Amen.
not come from somebody else. You
100%.
create your own safety in whatever relationship that you're in. You are safe because you're creating it. And number 3, you get liberated. You are liberated from all the ick. You are liberated from other people's fits. You are liberated from the narcissism. You are liberated because you're liberating your own damn self. And that's what boundaries do. And that's what my course, the boundaries blueprint, which is in the 3 essentials, evolve, and unity,
Okay.
provides.
And they go to danaskaggs.com, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, so it's DANASKAGGS, everybody.com. I have to tell you, if you're listening to this podcast or you're about to go through or going through a high conflict divorce or trying to leave, I think everyone should have to do a boundaries course because what you said, how I described how I slept like a baby after I finally started to have boundaries, what was such an amazing byproduct is shitty people just kind of sense that I have boundaries. It starts to become like an energy, right? And they no longer came near me. I no longer had to defend them after I got used to them because people just steer clear. And my life got so easy. It got so free, as you described. I had insomnia for an easy 20 straight years, bad insomnia. My insomnia went away. Like, because again, I could wake up and predict my day tomorrow because people didn't freaking cross my boundaries anymore. If they did, I just went, no. And I got real comfortable going, no. And they were like,
Yep.
oh, okay. Or like you said, they didn't like it and they left. It's an amazing freaking filter.
It's hard to describe the
It's hard to
amazingness.
describe.
That's why I'm known as the Queen of Boundaries, because I'm so,
Oh,
so, so passionate about it because it's an absolute life changer.
life changer.
I mean, with hardcore narcissistic dysfunctional people,
Yeah.
it will absolutely change your life.
Yeah. No, by default, if this podcast is playing, you have someone in your life that is 100% bulldozing over your boundaries. And you've maybe, whether you used to have them or you've forgotten how, or you just haven't been allowed to, you guys, you should go to danaskaggs.com and do her boundary blueprint because I think it should be essential. I wish I would have done it way back then. It would have saved me a lot of trial and error. And you have your own amazing podcast. Tell us about your podcast.
Yes, my podcast is Phoenix and Flame. It's pushing through on the wings of boundaries. And so it's just like learning. I love to learn about how people, what is the fire that burns you to the ground? How does it
Mm,
feel like to be sitting in that pile of ash? And what helped you to rise like the phoenix from the ash pile? And so I started that because when I was in my private practice, well, I still am, but when I started the podcast, I would hear people tell me their stories, and they said, Dana, I feel like I'm all alone. I feel like I'm the only one going through this. This is what it feels like. But I would know they weren't, but because of confidentiality, I couldn't share anything.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm starting a podcast so I can let people know you're not alone. I want listen to these persons, listen to these stories. You're not alone. This person is going through what you went through. Listen to them. Listen to how they felt so you know that you're feeling that too. It's okay.
Yeah.
You're feeling down. You're feeling down on yourself. You feel like you don't have any self-esteem. You feel like there's no hope. They felt that too. You're not alone. And here's what helped them to rise up, and it might help you too. So that was my passion behind developing Phoenix and Flame.
I love it. So everyone go to Phoenix and Flame and listen to Dana's podcast. And usually I would say this at the beginning, but how Dana and I know each other is we are actually both in a speaking program. We're considered speaker sisters. And so Dana has a keynote. And is your keynote about boundaries then?
Yes, it's called Becoming the CEO of Your Mental Boardroom.
Oh, I love it.
Banishing burnout with boundaries.
Okay.
And the reason why I wanted to do that is because when you have trouble setting boundaries, there's always the why. And then I flip into internal family systems where we go into our mental boardroom to figure out what part of me in there is scared to set boundaries. And then so we start identifying these parts that are in our mental boardroom and how to manage them.
I love it. And I'm going to plug this for me too, because I am also now speaking. It's absolutely amazing. And my passion that's come out of this is our self-talk, because we talked about the false narratives that get planted, and we're already wired for negativity just out of survival, right? That's how our brains work. But then when you pile on this abusive relationship you've been through and the false narratives that they've planted about you, and your self-talk is just in the toilet, and I'm just so obsessed too with the science behind it. And so that is also what my keynote's about. And so I love that we're out there speaking. I'm so blessed that our paths crossed, and it did so in this fashion. And I discovered you because this podcast needed the boundaries talk big time.
This is amazing, Jackie. This has been great. I've so enjoyed you, and I'm so glad you're creating this space for women that are going through this very, very tough time, because you get isolated, and you feel like there's no hope, and you feel like you're all alone, and so you're like the voice. And there was something, Jess Ekstrom, she's talked about the spotlight speaker versus the lighthouse speaker. And a spotlight speaker is someone that just wants all the attention on them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus a lighthouse speaker is a shining the light for everybody, using something they went through to shine a light to help someone else who might be out there in the darkness. And I think that's what you're doing.
Oh, well, that is what you are doing as well, because I think we're both maybe helping put those goggles on that you described in the very beginning, so that we can virtually hold people's hand and help them see a little more clearly what is actually going on in this obstacle course that they're waking up that's different every day. So I love that analogy. Thank you for that. Thank you again for being a guest on Out of Crazy Town. I'm going to release you from Crazy Town now and let you go back to your
Thank you, Jackie.
Okay, and hopefully we will talk again soon.
Okay, thank you.